Hi, YouTube family. This is Ebony, and I am back with part two of your season of favor and abundance. This is the last part of the teaching series. I hope that you guys were blessed by it. I hope that you guys gained much knowledge from it, okay? And I hope that you guys are expectant, all right, in this season, all right, because God is getting ready to again overflow your lives with blessings, all right, blessings on top of blessings, blessings that you will most certainly have to give away, all right. And it's not just again material, all right, because when we hear that kind of stuff we think that it's just again all material, but no, these are for people who are being raised up, all right, leaders who are being raised up to stand in their positions for their assignments. All of this is coming along with that, all right. And so it's something that you just don't have to worry about, all right. You can feel confident in knowing that God is with you, that He is going to be with you every step of the way. You don't have to worry about, well, how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to do that. You don't have to worry about any of that, all right. When God commissions us to do something, He already provides what is needed for us to fulfill what He is calling us to do, all right. And so, with that being said, we can most certainly take confidence in knowing that God is backing everything that He has, again, called us to do. All right. And so, with that being said, today is going to be a lot different from the first video, as I do with all of my teaching series. Part two is always the shortest out of the part ones of every video that I've brought out so far. So today, all we're going to do is just get straight into the word. I've already prayed and covered this word, so we're just getting ready to go straight into it. All right. So the book of Ezra is still what we're coming out of, chapter 7, but today we're doing verses 20 through the 28th chapter. All right, not 28th chapter, but the 28th verse. All right, and then that will be the end of this teaching. All right, there is another word that's coming out, so I ask that you guys make sure that your notifications are on, so when I do post that you guys will be notified. All right, and I also want to put this out as well. There was a video that I posted many months ago, probably maybe a year ago, excuse me. And it was um like a video that I put out. It was called Encounter. It's like a dream and encounter. All right. And this video that I posted was about my brother, my long lost brother, all right, that is no longer with us today. And it was about, just, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give it all away, but I want you guys to be on the lookout for that. So just, to say it short, be on the lookout for another video that's coming out, and it's about my dream and my encounter with God, all right, concerning my brother who is no longer here today. He lost his life due to suicide. And so it's a very informative message, all right. And so I ended up deleting it, because I put it out because I was being obedient, but I was just not ready to put it out. All right. I was a mess. I was crying all in the video, and I left things out, and the Lord let me know that, months later, or maybe a year in, when He put it on my mind, and I said, oh, yeah, I did miss some things. All right. So be on the lookout for that. All right. And then, to be honest, it's not one of those, yippity, type of videos, all right, but it's very important, all right, for all to know, all right. And so again, be on the lookout, all right. So with that being said, Ezra chapter 7, um verses 20 all the way to the 28th verse, and New King James Version is what I am coming out of, all right. And whatever more may be needed for the house of your God, which you may have occasion to provide, pay for it from the king's treasury. And I, even I, Artaxerxes the king, issue a decree to all the treasurers who are in the region beyond the river, that whatever Ezra the priest, the scribe of the law of the God of heaven, may require of you, let it be done diligently, up to 100 talents of silver, 100 cores of wheat, 100 baths of wine, 100 baths of oil, and salt without prescribed limit. Whatever is commanded by the God of heaven. Let it diligently be done for the house of the God of heaven. For why should there be wrath against the realm of the king and his sons? And also inform you that it shall not be lawful to impose tax, tribute, or custom on any of the priests, Levite, singers, gatekeepers, Nethinim, or servants of this house of God. And you, Ezra, according to your God given wisdom, set magistrates and judges who may judge all the people who are in the region beyond the river, all such as know the laws of your God, and teach those who do not know them. Whoever will not observe the law of your God and the law of the king, let judgment be executed speedily on him. Rather it be death or banishment or confiscation of goods or imprisonment. Blessed be the Lord God of our fathers, who has put such a thing as this in the king's heart, to beautify the house of the Lord which is in Jerusalem, and has executed mercy to me before the king and his counselors, and before all the king's mighty princes. So I was encouraged as the hand of the Lord my God was upon me, and I gathered leading men of Israel to go up with me. Okay. So verses 20 through 24, the priest is still assisting Ezra in funding his assignment. All right. King Artaxerxes issues a decree to all the treasuries in the region beyond the river. God's provision and influence were reaching beyond local limits into entire systems of power. This was highlighting that God's means of providing provision surpasses regional authority. God's ways are higher than our ways, all right? And so this again is just highlighting that we have to really be open-minded of how God is going to bring provision into our lives, all right? Especially those who are being raised up or who are commissioned to do something, all right, that God has called you to do, all right? You need provision in order to, fund this assignment, all right, that you're doing. And this is not just material, this is spiritually too, all right? Things that you are going to need to be able to move forward into this assignment, all right? And so you have to be open-minded as to how these things are going to come, all right? God, one thing that I've been learning as I've been reading, his word, is that he does a lot of his work through vessels, all right, through his people, all right, through people. And they don't necessarily have to be, his people, all right? They can be people who are not saved, all right, who don't know God, all right, but they may be in a, position of power where they can help people, all right? And so you have to be open on where this provision comes from, all right? Some people will sit there, and get blessed by somebody, and they'll instantly get critical and be like, well, this person ain't saved. I don't know what they helping me, if this is, coming from, drug money or whatever it is that he does, or, he uses a person to bless you. You have to be open to it. All right. And so God knows who he's choosing to bless you. All right. And so be open-minded as to how these blessings come. All right. And also, I want to say this: let go of your expectations too, all right, of how things are supposed to be, because this is again one of the things that causes people to be discouraged, all right, because we sit there as humans. God tells us something, all right, we get excited about it, all right, and then we start picturing in our minds how things are going to be or how they should be, in our minds, all right, and then when they don't turn out the way that we don't want it to, turn out, we sit there and we get upset about it, all right? When we should just be trusting God, all right? Trusting that he knows best, all right? That was something that I had to learn, all right? Walking this walk with God, all right? I sit there, get excited after the Lord and showed me something, and then, I get to plan it out in my head. Oh, it's going to happen like this, and then it don't happen, the way that I intended it to, all right? And it'd be like, oh, okay, and that, kind of, comes off as ungrateful, all right? And so I had to learn that, God knows best for me, all right? He knows what's best for my life, all right? And so we all have to, think that same way, all right? And just trust that God knows best, all right? So King Artaxerxes made it clear that whatever Ezra needed, that it was to be done for him and diligently. He also knew that whatever he chose not to do for Ezra, or whoever chose not to do for Ezra for the purpose of God, that he and his people would, have to give an account. All right. There was a part where he spoke of, what verse was that? Hold on. Went back because the wind is blowing. All right. It said in verse 23, where the king of Persia, all right, says, "For why should there be wrath against the realm of the king and his sons?" This was, specifically, pointing that out. Like, if I don't, do my part, I'll have to give an account. All right. And that's for people. I'm talking to people who, again, who are in positions to help people. All right. Some people may not know that they're God people. All right. But still, if you're in a position where you're able to help somebody and you withholding, all right, that's going against God, all right? Because when it's almost like, when it comes to, how he see poor people, all right? If you sit there and you're in a position where you can help a poor person, but you walk past them when you see them, or if they come to you and they ask you for something and you clearly got it, but you don't sit there and say, you know what, here, I got you. Pull out your, a couple of dollars and give it to them, but you don't do that, all right? God will get you for that, all right? He will account you for that, all right? Because again, you're in a position where you can help, all right? And you're not choosing to do that, all right? And it's no different from God's people, whoever, that walk with God, all right? And you're, purposely opposing them, all right? You have to give an account for that. And God will get, he'll get that, all right? And so, you know, do what you can, all right? Because when you bless others, all right, you're being blessed by them as well, all right? You're how can I say it? When you bless, someone that belongs to Christ, you're blessed by their life, all right? By you giving, by you pouring into them, all right? You're going to be blessed by them, all right? Your life is going to be blessed because of who you chose to pour into, all right? So I hope y'all get me on that, all right? Wherever you can help, and be a blessing to others, be that, all right? All right, so King Artaxerxes excused those who served in the temple from paying taxes, tribute, all right? Tribute was regional support payments, all right? Customs was fees on goods and services. This was God removing burdens for his people so that it didn't interfere with their assignments. So these are people that I want to talk to right now. And those are, again, people who have been commissioned. You know that you have been called to do something, all right? God is removing burdens in your lives that are, a hindrance to where he's, taking you, all right? Or your assignment, whatever you're commissioned to do, he's removing anything that again hinders that, all right? So if there's anything financial, all right, if there's anything where it's again people around you who are opposing you, like imposing you in ways that is actually keeping you from moving forward, or again, or has the potential, I'll say, because many of you may be in a threshold period right now where you can't really move forward. You're waiting for God to give you a go. All right. That is what I want, to talk about as far as those who are in this place. All right. So whatever it is that's, hindering you, God is removing it. All right. And so God is surpassing the expectations of his people in this season. So God is getting ready to move in many of you all's lives in a way that you have never known. All right. And it's going to, again, surpass your expectations. All right. So whatever it is that you expect God to do, he's going to oversee that. All right. Expect for hearts to be moved to bless you in this season, all right? There will be no limit to the abundance that is coming into you all's lives, all right? Meaning it's going to come and it's not going to be a limitation to it. It's unmeasurable, okay? And so much so that you're going to have to give these things away, all right? What is coming, all right? And so the resources that God is blessing you with is not just for the personal use and assignments, all right? It's also to bless others, all right? So make sure you allow God to lead you to those who are you're meant to bless, all right? Don't hinder God's plan by withholding what God wants you to do, what he wants to do through you. All right. So again, when all this overflow come, all right, keep in mind, that you have to be led, all right, to whoever God wants you to bless. All right. You can't just be handing out things. All right. You have to wait and, let God lead you to the right people who are meant to, be in on your blessings. All right. Those who, again, may have helped you, supported you in your journey, or it could just be, again, somebody who may be in need. All right. And God is going to put you in a position to help them. All right. God is removing burdens in this season that will become hindrances to your assignment. This could be financial, internally, externally, environments, all right, that you may be in, that again, God may be having to relocate many people, all right, where you have to be stationed somewhere else, all right, other than the environments that you're in, all right, because sometimes environments have the potential to kind of keep you from being able to move forward in the things of God, all right? And so you can't take baggage or your past into your new season. So whatever it is that you may have going on that you have to clean up right now, that is when you should do it, is now. All right? Because once God gives you a go and tells you to move forward into whatever that thing is that he has commissioned you to do, all right? You can't take any of that stuff with you. The old baggage with you, your old mindsets, all right? The way that you used to see things, you can't take that, all right? Whatever God has done in your life to change your perspective, that's what you may, not may, but you have to, continue in, all right? So if he gave you a shift in perspective, all right? This is, again, what you have to walk in going into that new season, all right? And so the only way God can shift, perspectives is bringing his truth, all right, into situations in your lives, all right, that causes you to shift your thinking, the way that you see things, all right, just in case people don't know, all right. And so even behaviors and stuff like that, you cannot take that, all right, old habits, you cannot take that, all right, into this next season, all right. All right. And so Exodus 25 to 28. And you, Ezra, according to your God-given wisdom, set magistrates and judges who may judge all the people who are in the region beyond the river, all such as know the laws of your God, and teach those who do not know them. Whoever will not observe the law of your God and the law of your king, let judgment be executed speedily on him, whether it be death or banishment or confiscation of goods or imprisonment. Blessed be the Lord God of our fathers, who has put such a thing as this in the king's heart, to beautify the house of the Lord which is in Jerusalem, and has extended mercy to me before the king and his counselors, and before all the king's mighty princes. So I was encouraged, I believe it's that, as the hand of the Lord my God was upon me, and I gathered leading men of Israel to go up with me. Let me make sure I read that right. Give me 1 second. So I was encouraged, yeah. All right. Because I knew that didn't sound right. Okay, so I was encouraged as the hand of the Lord my God was upon me, and I gathered leading men of Israel to go with me. So the king is making sure that there is complete order in which things are ran in the temple and Jerusalem as a whole. The king is entrusting Ezra to set judges and magistrates in place so that everything operated smoothly. So just one, thing I want to say here. When I spoke in part one, I was telling you guys that, again, this king that entrusted Ezra to do all of these things, all right, didn't know who God was, all right, didn't serve God, but he feared God, all right, because he knew that if he didn't, again, help fund, Ezra's, assignment, that again, he would have to give an account, all right, so he was moved. God touched his heart to bless him, all right, to bless him and being able to fulfill this assignment, all right, that God commissioned him to do, all right? So this Persian king did not want to interfere with that because he knew what the consequence would be, all right, if he did, interfere with it, all right. And so, I mean, he really went all out for Ezra, all right, which is why I said it's such a beautiful thing, because here, this is a king that don't, he don't walk with God, he don't serve God, all right, but he was so abundant in giving, all right, and merciful as well, all right, that he did everything that needed to be done to make sure that Ezra could do what needed to be done. All right. And that was to bring order amongst the people. That was to also bring order within the churches. All right. And everything else that God had commissioned him to do. All right. And so, um, with that being said, Ezra had everything that he needed, all right? There was a consequence for those who were not willing to observe the law of God and the king. This gave the people a choice to choose what they were going to do. So many of you in this season or what have you have assignments, all right? There are people who have, kingdom marriage assignments, all right? Where God has commissioned you to take responsibility. And I'm talking to the men out there, all right? Take responsibility in a position that God has called you to be someone's husband, all right? You have an assignment to do, all right? And it's up to you to step into that, all right? But there is a consequence behind that, y'all. And it's not a consequence that's, again, likely to destroy. But again, a lot of people, if they don't get it together in this season, they will forfeit their inheritance, all right? Meaning they will forfeit their wives that God has for them. And so as well as women too, all right? Kingdom wives out there, all right? You have been assigned to be someone's helper, all right? And you are straddling the fence, dragging your feet, all right? There's a window that is closing, all right? And if you don't get, again in line, all right, and whatever it is that, has your attention, what's going to happen is God is going to, pass that wife and pass that husband to somebody else who is ready, all right, to take on the mantle of that assignment, all right? And so, going back to judgment season, all right, that the last couple of videos that I posted about judgment approaching, all right, this is what that judgment is going to look like for some people, all right. Not every judgment that God puts out here is meant to destroy people, not everybody, all right, but sometimes it could be, again, forfeiting your own inheritance, causing consequences, all right, meaning that whoever God has assigned for your life, you forfeit it, and you say, here, somebody else can have that person, and God, he ain't playing around in this season. Whoever is not willing to step in and take these mantles that he has is going to pass that person, by, and somebody else is going to take it, all right? And that's just how it works, all right? We all have a calling, all right? And as the word of God says it, there are people who are called, but few are chosen, all right? We all have a call, but it's up to us to step into that. And if we choose not to, then that's on us. But I don't know about y'all, I want, all that God has for me, all right? And I'm willing to do whatever it is to have the fullness of what God has for me, all right? Because trust me, what God does, I'm telling y'all, what God does is something that you just don't want to, you don't want to miss. All right. It's times where in my life where I miss God so much, because I wanted to be disobedient. All right. I wanted to do my own thing. I was comfortable with how things was. All right. And I really didn't want what God wanted for me. All right. But like I said, I'm so glad that I'm in a space now where I said yes to him. All right. But there was times as well when I was in my own mess where I knew it was this inner knowing that I had way down in my gut that whatever God was trying to push me into, I missed it. All right. And that's the most horrible feeling that you could ever, take on. All right. Is to know that you've missed the mark on something. All right. miss the mark on, again, what God has for you. You forfeit it because you're not, willing to put down certain things, or stop talking to certain people, or to put down your, different, habits or lifestyles that you have. Trust me, what God has for you is not worth, forfeiting what I'm telling y'all. If people knew what he had, in store for them, they would not be doing the foolishness, some of the foolishness that I am witnessing today with people, okay? Like, if I can be quite honest, I'm in a space right now where I'm grieving for some people, all right? When I say I'm grieving, I am grieving for some people, all right? And I'm grieving because, again, people just don't understand how serious, you know, the decisions that they make, and the effects, you know the people that, that's around them, all right, the decisions that they're making is affecting people in, in ways that they can't even see, all right. And so they sit there and they so fixed on being, prideful, all right, walking around like, let me just calm down, all right? Because I don't want to say too much on here, all right? But what I am saying is, y'all, if you're in a position right now where you're straddling the fence about something, you dragging your feet on something, like you think you got all that time, all right, to do whatever it is that you want to do. Trust me, you don't want to have that kind of attitude, because right when you finally ready to be who God wants you to be, it's going to be too late. All right. And you can, again, put your situation in what I'm saying. All right. Because only you know where you are in your situation right now. All right. And I'm just going to leave it at that. All right. I don't know who that's for. All right. Because I ain't feel like I didn't feel like I had to say that. But again, I just, whatever comes out, I just say it. All right. So let's get back to it. All right. Ezra was so encouraged by what God had done through the king. He saw the mercy of God through the king, and it encouraged him to move forward with the assignment God commissioned him for. He gained confidence because he saw that everything he did through the king, that God was most certainly backing the assignment. Okay, and so Ezra was so encouraged because he saw the goodness of God coming through this king, all right? And this is what strengthened Ezra, because many of you may be also in a position where you're questioning your own abilities, all right, to be able to do what God has called you to do. And so what we have to understand is, in this season, we can't, use, our own strength to do what God is, bringing us into. This is, again, something that can only be led by God's spirit. All right. You can only be led by the spirit of God through whatever it is he's commissioning you to do. All right. So it's not about us striving, all right, to do something in our own strength, all right, to get something done. Everything that we do, the power of God is going to flow through us to do whatever it is that he is calling us to do. All right. So that's number one. All right. On top of that, he's funding, he's backing everything that you do. All right. That everything is shifting in your favor. All right. So that God's fulfillment or whatever it is that he needs to do can be done. All right. And so this is what's going to strengthen you and empower you to do what he has called you to do. So right now, things may not look as if God is, really moving, or things are, not really moving forward. But this is the place that God would want you to be for the moment, all right? There will be a time where he will, again, make it very clear to you all to move forward, all right? He's going to give you an instruction, all right? And once you get that instruction, then movement begins, all right? But until then, you have to just stay where you are, all right? But in the meantime, let this be a time where you can just, again, self-reflect, self-examine yourselves, ask God, what is it that I can do, in this time and moment. I find myself while I'm waiting for, your instruction, all right, your leading, all right? It's plenty of stuff that we can do while we're waiting on God, all right? And so it doesn't have to be a season, right, or a moment where we're being unproductive, all right? Because there's always something that we can do. We can also, again, focus on doing something better, all right? Working on consistency, a discipline. If you're lacking a little bit of discipline in this time, all right, use this time to start, developing some things, all right? So that, or strengthening some things rather, so that, again, when God, is ready to say, all right, let's move forward, you're there, all right? And you've accomplished something. All right, so applications that I want to give: expect whatever you're commissioned to do in God's name to be backed by God. As I stated, don't worry how things are going to get done. Rest in God and trust you will have everything that you need and that you're already equipped for the call. For those who are still straddling the fence about what they have been called to do, be wise in your decision. This is what I just finished talking about. There are people who need your giftings, all right? And the oil that's on your life. There is consequences behind not moving forward in what you are called to do, all right? All right. So, this is again a crucial time, because this is not just, again, people sit there and think that this, commissioning is about um ministry, all right? And it is, part of it is about ministry, because even, you know um for those who have been promised marriage, all right, whether you've been promised a kingdom wife or a kingdom husband, all right, what comes along with that, again, is a ministry, because one of them people, or one of the other, may not be, deep in the faith as you, all right? And so your job may be to help them to get where you are. Whatever the case is, all right, there's a commission, all right, for you to, get them to where they have to be, all right? And so with that being said, you know, um, even if you're willing and that person may not be willing, it's still a thing where we, intercede as well. That's what I want to say. Intercede for people, all right? That, again, that you're waiting on, because there's people in marriage, all right, who have been promised marriage, all right. You have to, again, let this be a moment in time that you're interceding constantly for those that God has promised you, all right, because, again, the enemy is trying very hard, all right, to try to keep God's plan from coming into you know work, all right. And so we have to make sure that, again, we're not just being idle, all right. This is a time right now where we should be in this is a time where right now we must be in a position and also posture, if I can say that, where we're interceding for people, all right. We're interceding, we're also keeping our own selves productive, so doing stuff that advances the kingdom, okay, of God. And so what that can look like is, going to God in prayer, seeing what needs to be cleaned up in your life, when it comes to, what you can do better, or um if there's consistency that you need to exercise, all right. If you're kind of straddling the fence with that, learning how to be more consistent, let this be something that you work on, all right. But in the meantime, I encourage you guys not to sit idle, all right, as you are waiting to cross over into your assignments, all right. It's always work to be done. Just go to God in prayer and say, Lord, what should I do as I'm in this season? Because many of you are in a position right now where you're just wondering, okay, Lord, what is next? All right. And I'm there. All right. If I can be honest, I'm there with you guys, So it's just, again, a matter of you just sitting there and waiting on God, all right? Because only He can, lead you and guide you in this season, all right? So, with that being said, you guys, I am officially done with this teaching. Be on the next lookout for the next word that I'll be putting out, because there will be new words being put out. So, just make sure that your notifications are on, so when I do post it, you guys will be the first ones notified, all right? With that being said, you guys, I love you. Be blessed.